Welcome all of you. In our previous class, we have looked about del operator. Del operator is a mathematical operator which resembles a vector. It is of the form I cap dou by dou x plus j cap dou by dou y plus k cap dou by dou z. Also, del is meaningless by itself. It is meaningful when it operates on a certain function. Del is most commonly used in the form of gradient operator, divergence operator, or curl operator. We have seen how del is used as gradient operator in our previous class. Just to recall that one here, del operator operates on a scalar function and gives us the vector function. Here, del operator operating on electrostatic potential gives us the electric field. That is, electric field can be written as the gradient of electrostatic potential. The significance is the gradient operator gives us the rate of change of scalar field and points in the direction of maximum change of the scalar field. So here the gradient operator gives us the rate of change of electrostatic potential and points in the direction in which the change is maximum. So it is along the radial lines. This we had looked at in our previous class. Today, we will look at the del operator being used as a divergent operator. If the del operator acts on a vector function as a dot product and gives back the scalar quantity, then we say it is the del operating as a divergence operator. What is divergence operator? If the del operator operating on a vector function and gives us the scalar function, we say it is acting as a divergence operator. What is the importance of this divergence operator? The divergence operator by definition is nothing but the outward flux per unit volume. It is the outward flux density. So look at this expression here. We have divergence of A or del dot A is equal to limit of delta V as delta V approaches to 0 of integral of A dot ds divided by delta V. So here this numerator A dot ds, integral of A dot ds, this represents the outward flux, and delta V in the denominator represents the infinitesimal small volume. So divergence is nothing but the outward flux per unit volume. This quantity represents the divergence. How do we understand this? Look at this example. Here we have a charge distribution, and we know that if there is a charge distribution, to find the electric field intensity about any point away from this one, we make use of the Gauss theorem, that is the Gaussian surface. So here, if this is the Gaussian surface, an imaginary surface around the charge distribution, because of the charges, there is an electric field lines which are going outward in all directions. Let us consider any point on the Gaussian surface and imagine a small volume dV about that point. So the divergence of vector field, that is electric field in our example, about this point is given by the electric flux, outgoing electric flux out of this volume divided by the volume. So it is the divergence is the outward flux divided by volume, outward flux per unit volume about a point on the Gaussian surface. So that is the meaning of divergence of a vector function. The divergence of a vector function is a scalar function. So when del operates on a vector function as dot product, we get a scalar quantity. It is just a number. We can look at this example diagram here. Suppose we have a positive charge at point P, then we know electric field lines are going outward. If you calculate the divergence at any point in the electric field because of this positive charge, the divergence will be a positive quantity. So we say it is having a positive divergence. If we have a negative charge at point P, then the field lines will be converging about this point. Electric field lines will be converging about this point. We say at any point in the electric field, the divergence is a negative value. If the field lines are parallel, then at any point, if we calculate the divergence, it will be zero. We say it has zero divergence. So what is divergence giving us basically is, it gives us how much the flow is expanding. So divergence is a measure of the expansion of the vector field. Hope you have understood. Divergence means it is a measure of the expansion of the vector field at any given point. Look at this last case. Here, the field lines are parallel to each other. If the field lines are parallel, then it is zero divergence. It is also named as solenoid or solenoidal field. Why do we call it so? Because in a solenoid, the field will be parallel, or the field lines will be parallel. So that is the physical significance of divergence. Now, let us look at the calculation of divergence when a vector is expressed in terms of its components. Here, let E be the vector which is expressed in the form of its components as Ex I cap plus Ey j cap plus Ez k cap. This is the vector function. The divergence of this vector function can be calculated by operating a del operator on this function. The del operator, we know it is given by I cap dou by dou x plus j cap dou by dou y plus k cap dou by dou z. This operating on this vector, that is taking the dot product if we want divergence, is equal to product of the components and their summation. Thus we get the divergence. From the above equation, we observe that the divergence of a vector field is a scalar quantity. Hope divergence is clear. Now let us look at the curl of a vector function. What is a curl? Or when do we call the del operator as a curl operator? If the del operator is operating on a vector function as the cross product and giving back a vector, then we say del operator is acting as a curl operator. What is curl operator? Or when do we say a del operator is a curl operator? If a del operator operates on a vector function as the cross product and gives back a vector, then we say del operator is acting as a curl operator. How do we define the curl of a vector field? Curl of a vector field at a given point is the maximum circulation of a vector per unit area as the area shrinks to zero about that point. Let us try to understand this definition. Before that, let us look at the mathematical part of it. Curl of the vector function E is equal to del cross vector function E. Observe here, del is operating as a cross product on the vector function E. So it is curl E. It is read as curl E. Curl E is equal to, it is defined as limit of delta S, ds tends to 0 of integral of E dot dl divided by ds. This numerator E dot dl is nothing but the circulation, and ds is the small area. So curl of vector field is defined as the circulation per unit area, circulation divided by infinitesimal area. So it is circulation per unit area. What is the physical meaning of this? Let us look at this diagram here. Let us suppose the concentric circles here is representing the flow of fluids. Let the arrow pointing here represent the velocity of the flow of fluids. So the fluid is flowing in the circular direction. The arrows represents the velocity. Let us suppose there is a ball placed at the origin here. Because of the circulating fluid here, the ball exhibits rotational motion, isn't it? Now let us assume a tiny area. You can consider the small circle at the center. Let this be the small area which is having area ds. Then the curl experienced by the ball can be defined as the circulation measured here divided by the area of cross section. What is circulation? Circulation is nothing but the line integral of the velocity vector acting here. The circulation is the line integral of velocity vector acting here divided, and if ds is the area of the small concentric circle at the origin, then the ratio of circulation to the area gives us the curl. This is in case of fluids. Suppose we consider this fluids replaced by a magnetic field in electrodynamics, then we can measure curl of the magnetic field about this point, or in it can be any field for that matter. If the velocity vector is replaced by the field, magnetic field or electric field, then at this point we can measure the curl of the electric or the magnetic field. So curl is a measure of the magnitude of electric field divided by the area. So it is the measure of maximum circulation per unit area. That is how we define the curl. I repeat the summation as to what is curl. We'll look at the summary of what is curl. Curl is a vector function. When a del operator operates on a vector function as a cross product and gives back the vector, we call it as a curl operator. Curl operating on a vector function is defined as the maximum circulation per unit area of cross section. Suppose here we have an electric field or a magnetic field, then at this point curl is defined as the circulation of the field. In general, the circulation of the vector field divided by the area of cross section about this point. It need not be always at the center. We can consider any point in the field. It may be at the periphery also. Even at this point, we can consider a point and calculate the curl here. For this, we need to consider a tiny area here, infinitesimal area ds at this point, and try to measure the circulation about this point. So that gives the curl at this point. At every point, the curl is a vector. We have seen that curl of a vector function gives back the vector for us. So by calculating this part, we get the magnitude of the curl. But what is the direction of the vector? The direction of the vector is given by right hand thumb rule. So in our example here, if the field is curling in the anticlockwise direction like this, then the direction of the curl will be along the perpendicular in the z direction, which is perpendicular to the plane of electric field, the vector field. So this is the direction of the curl. So curl has both magnitude as well as direction. The magnitude of the curl is the magnitude of rotation. A vector field whose curl is 0 is called irrotational. If the field, vector field we are talking about, if it is curl is 0, that means that the field lines are parallel. For a parallel vector field, the curl will be 0. For such a field, we call it as irrotational fields. Physical significance of a curl, the curl is a measure of how much the field swirls around a point of consideration. What is the physical significance of a curl? The physical significance of a curl is it is a measure of the curl is a measure of how much the field swirls around the point of consideration. We can come across the curl in a current carrying conductor. Suppose we have a current flowing in this conductor, then the magnetic field will be present around this conductor, and we can measure the curl by taking del cross H about any point in the magnetic field. If the field lines are parallel, as we said earlier, it is zero curl. The curl will be 0 at that point, and it is said to be irrotational. Higher the curl, higher is the rotation of the field at that point. So this much is about the definition of curl and the significance of the curl. Now, how do we evaluate a curl? Suppose we are finding curl of a magnetic field H. Then curl H is equal to is given by cross product of del operator and the magnetic field function. So del operator is given by I into dou by dou x plus j into dou by dou y plus k cap dou by dou z in its component form, and magnetic field is given in its component form as hx I cap plus hy j cap plus hz k cap. So curl H is a vector, and we know how we evaluate the cross product of two vectors. On a similar way, we can evaluate the curl of H by evaluating this determinant. In the first row, we will have the unit vectors I cap, j cap, k cap, and the second line will be having the operator, the components of the del operator, and in the third row, we will be having the components of the field. So if we evaluate this determinant, we get the magnitude of the vector or the resultant vector. The direction can be, of course, measured from, determined from the right hand thumb rule. So this much we need to know about the curl. Now, let us look about line integral. Line integral is basic integration. A line integral is an integral where the function to be integrated is evaluated along a line or a curve. A line integral is an integral where the function to be integrated is evaluated along a curve. Look at this diagram. Here we have electric field, which is indicated by the lines of forces. Then AB is the path about which we need to evaluate the electric field. Then how do we go about? We will assume this line AB to be divided into number of small segments, each having a width ds. Then electric field about this ds is equal to E dot ds. So if we integrate E dot ds, that is the vector function E about this length, then we get the vector function about this segment ds. If we want to extend or evaluate this for the entire length A to B, Then we need to integrate this one, integrate E dot ds. So here, that is represented here. Integral of E dot ds, this is equal to integral of E cos theta ds. Since there is an angle between E and ds, the dot product of E dot ds will be EDS cos theta. So EDS cos theta is the value of E over the small interval ds, and to extend it for this entire length, we will integrate this one, integrate the term E dot ds. Then we will get for this entire length AB. So it is shown by applying as limits from the point A to the point B. Now, suppose we want to evaluate the electric field or the vector function E about this circular path. Then the same thing is repeated here. We assume this circular loop to be divided into number of tiny segments ds and evaluate E dot ds and integrate over this line. Since it is a closed path, to differentiate from the unclosed path or open path, we have put a small circle on the integral sign. So this represents the closed curve. Integration, line integral over a closed loop. This represents line integral over a closed loop. That is line integration. So here you need to know that line integration is a integral where the function to be integrated is evaluated about a line or a curve, whether it is closed curve or unclosed curve. The line integral concept can be applied to calculate the potential difference between 2 points in an electric field. In the same diagram, we know here the electric field, the vector field is the electric field. So if we calculate E dot ds and integrate, we will between A and B, we will get the potential difference between the point A and the point B. So this can be used to find the potential difference between any 2 points in an electric field. Next, surface integral. On similar lines to the line integral, here when we want to integrate a function over a surface, we make use of surface integral. Look at this example here. Here we have a vector function E acting over the surface, and suppose we need to evaluate this vector function about the surface, then what we need to do, we will calculate the integral of the vector function dot the area vector. So for that, let us consider a tiny area and then extend for the entire surface. If this is the small surface area with its vector acting in a perpendicular direction for the surface. So this is the small area having a magnitude dA, and the direction of this area vector is upward perpendicular to this small area, and the electric field vector is acting over, or it is passing through the surface, making an angle theta. So the value of E over the surface dA is obtained by calculating E dot dA or E dA cos theta. This is the value of the vector function E over dA. Now, if we want the value of the vector function E over this entire surface, what we will do? We will consider this, the valuation of E over the small area, and then integrate it for this entire surface, because integration is nothing but summation over the larger values. If this is the area vector, if this is the electric field vector acting over the small area, this entire area can be assumed to be made up of such smaller surface areas. So about each point, about each tiny surfaces, there will be E cos theta. We can integrate them. That will give us the total electric field passing over the surface. This is the surface integral. So surface integral can be used to evaluate the value of vector function over the area over any surface. If it is, this is for an open surface. If it is a closed surface, then like a Gaussian surface, the best example for closed surface is a Gaussian surface, then the same thing on similar lines, what we discussed in the previous case, we will consider the evaluation of vector field about the small surface area and integrate for this entire closed surface. So that is integral of E dot dA. For the closed surface, it is represented by a closed small circle on the integration symbol. This represents the closed surface integral or the surface integral over a closed surface. So where can we use this surface integral? It is helpful in finding the electric flux. We know what is electric flux from Gauss theorem or Gauss law. Electric flux is the total outward flux acting over any surface. So here we have electric field lines acting along this direction. dA is the area vector. E dot dA gives us the flux. So if we want the flux over this entire surface, closed surface, we can integrate the flux, what we get here, and extend it to the entire surface area. That is how surface integral is helpful. It is helpful in evaluating the total outward flux over a surface, open surface or a closed surface. Next, volume integral. What is volume integral? This is again the further extension of line integral and surface integral. A volume integral helps us to evaluate the vector function or a scalar function about the total volume, about the entire volume. Suppose we have a charge distribution here and we need to find out the total charge present in this one. To evaluate the total charge present in this volume, what we will do? We will consider a tiny infinitesimal volume dV in this charge distribution and try to find out the charge density here. Knowing this charge density over the small volume, if we multiply the charge density with volume dV, we will get the total amount of charges present within this small volume. If we integrate this as a volume integral, that is 3 times the line integral, then we get the total volume, the total number of charges present in this entire volume. So this is volume integral. This helps us to evaluate the total magnitude of charges present here in a volume by knowing the charge density. So we have seen the line integral, surface integral, and volume integral. The integration of a function over a line is done by line integral. The integration of a function over a surface is done by surface integral. The integration of a function over a volume is calculated by a volume integral. By this, we complete the review of vector calculus and the basics required for derivation of Maxwell's equations. Next, let us look at the Gauss law. Let us look at the derivation of first Maxwell's equation. The first Maxwell equation is the mathematical version of Gauss law for electrostatics. We know that from our lower classes, Gauss law helps us to find out the electric field intensity at a point when there is distribution of charges. We will assume an imaginary surface passing through the point where we need to find the field and calculate the flux at that point and relate the flux to electric field. So here in our example, we have an imaginary surface. This is the spherical surface, which is an imaginary surface called the Gaussian surface. This is enclosing an amount of charges Q. To find the electric field intensity at a point on the sphere, we know from Gauss law, the total outward electric flux coming out of this Gaussian surface is equal to, it is given by Q by epsilon naught. I repeat, the total flux coming out of this Gaussian surface is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the charges enclosed by the Gaussian surface. If Q is the charges enclosed by this Gaussian surface, then phi is equal to Q by epsilon naught. The total charges enclosed by the Gaussian surface can be expressed in terms of its charge density as in volume integral of rho v dv. Q can be written as volume integral of rho v dv. This we saw in our volume integral discussion. If you refer this diagram here, the total charges enclosed by this surface present in this volume can be calculated knowing the charge density. It is integral of rho v dv. This we have used in our equation here. The total charges present within the Gaussian surface is equal to volume integral of rho v dv. Let us name this as equation 1. Now, if this is the Gaussian surface, we can relate the flux coming out of the surface with the electrostatic field. For that, let us assume a small surface element ds on the Gaussian surface. We know the electric field lines are going outward. So this is the electric field line and ds is the area vector. Electric field is also vector. This is the direction of the electric field. So these are two vectors and theta is the angle between the two. So the flux coming out of the surface is given by E dot ds. The flux coming out of the small surface area ds is equal to E dot ds. Then what is the total flux for this entire surface? We can make use of the surface integral, what we discussed here, and know that the total flux will be equal to surface integral over a closed surface of E dot dA. dA is the small area, then total flux coming out will be equal to surface integral of E dot dA. The same thing we are using here in our diagram. The total flux coming out of the surface will be equal to surface integral of the flux coming through this small surface. That means we are integrating the flux coming out through this surface to the entire surface area. So total flux is equal to E dot ds, a surface integral. Let us name this as equation 2. Now compare equation 1 with equation 2. Here we have total flux is equal to so much. Here we have total flux is equal to so much in terms of electric intensity, electric field intensity. Relating the two, I can write this as surface integral of E dot ds is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times volume integral of rho v dv. This is equation 3. This is the integral form of Gauss law for electrostatics. This is the integral form of Gauss law for electrostatics. We need to write this in the differential form. Let us do that. So I have rewritten equation 3. Surface integral of E dot ds is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the volume integral of rho v dv. Let us make use of Gauss divergence theorem here. What does Gauss divergence theorem say? It relates the surface integral of a vector function with volume integral. How? It says that surface integral of a vector function is equal to volume integral of the divergence of the vector function. So we'll make use of this result in equation 3. Using this equation, this Gauss divergence theorem, I can rewrite the LHS of the equation 3 as volume integral of del dot E dV. This will be equal to 1 by epsilon naught times integral of rho v dV. Or transferring this to the other side and simplify, we can eliminate this integrals. So we will be left with del dot E, that is divergence of E, is equal to rho v by epsilon naught. That is divergence of electric flux is equal to charge density by permittivity. Now let us push this epsilon naught alongside with E. Then epsilon naught E will be called as the flux density, which is D. So this equation can be rewritten as del dot D equals rho V, where D is epsilon naught times E. So del dot D equals rho V, or the divergence of flux density is equal to rho V, that is charge density. This is the mathematical version of Gauss law, and this is the first Maxwell's equation. Thus, we have derived the first law of Maxwell's, we have derived the first Maxwell's equation, that is Gauss law for electrostatics. Thus, we have derived the first Maxwell's equation, that is Gauss law for electrostatics.